Yes, sir.
Okay, chalo. Vande Mataram. We are back in a session of the Law Club. Now, today I am your host, Siddharth Nuarka. I am an advocate on record, Supreme Court of India, and I own the law firm called Law Chamber of Siddharth Nuarka. Today we'll be, the webinar was earlier done, but unfortunately the recording was not proper, so we were requested to do it again, and therefore, along with the Jan Adalat, we are doing it again, and Sagar is there with us. Sagar is one of the owners of the Jan Adalat who has created a fantastic forum for people from Pune to get them justice, and in fact is organizing several Lok Adalats, etc. Thank you, Sagar, for the same. Now we continue with the lecture. Now, kindly see, when we talk about right to information, the first thing that comes in our mind is that we will give an application. The application will be replied and we will get the information. Now that's the perception, and that is what we understand as the concept for right to information. But exactly that is not the purpose of right to information. The right to information had that clause that you apply, but did not have the intention that you keep on applying and the department will keep on giving you information. What it leads to is X applies for an information, then Y applies for the same information, then Z applies for the same information. So is it the purpose of the act to have multiple sharing of the same data and wasting paper? The answer is no. Now I have shared my screen and you can easily see the WARE Act. Is it clear, Neeraj?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you see the WARE Act, I have taken it out from the Ministry of Law and Justice, because today what happens is when we take out the WARE Acts from these services, they are at times faulty. Now if you see the unnumbered para 3, and whereas democracy requires an informed citizenry and transparency of information, which are vital to the functioning and also to contain corruption and to hold government and instrumentalities accountable to be governed. Now, what we understand from this is the idea was to create an informed citizenry. It was not to have information on demand by citizenry. So if we go by that concept, the idea was that the information should reach every citizen and there must be transformation of information. It is not just information, transparency of information. And it is important to hold the government accountable in the functioning. Now, if we go to page 2, again the unnumbered para 2, it says, and therefore it is expedient to provide for furnishing certain information to citizens who desire to have it. Now, there are two methods of having it. One is a citizen applies and he gets it, and one is the suo moto disclosures, which is the core, you can say, the heart of the entire RTIF. Now, what exactly common people or the lawyers understand is that they have to apply for information, and no one has generally ever concentrated on the provisions of section 4 of the RTI, which is about suo moto disclosure. Now, if we concentrate on having everything online, things will change. It is possible that an information which is given to X may be fraudulently manipulated by the PIO. But what if it is on a public domain? If it is on a public domain, then there is no question of it being fraudulent, because if I give information to X and if I have given a false information, at the most I will be penalized for 25,000 rupees and maybe relying upon that information he will proceed. But section 4 is the core and heart of this information, and what it did was the RTI. I'm not covering the entire RTI yet. If we go in details, it's very big in the sense of explanation. Section 4 made a duty and casted a duty upon every public authority to maintain its records in a cataloged and index format in a manner in which facilitates the right to information and ensures all records are computerized within reasonable time. Now, then the Act in Part B says you have to publish within 180 days somewhere around 17 items which were detailed. Now, if you see these 17 items, if these all are complied with, I am sure the public will not have to resort to the seeking of information as regularly or as frequently as is done today. It talks about, if you see the Roman 1, the particulars of its organization, functions, and duties. Now, I will explain it with the concept of bar council and bar association, and those who are not lawyers can understand it, assuming the associations or organizations in which they are involved or they are related. There is a bar association. Now, what is the organization? For example, we take a small bar association of a local area of, say, Pune. It is bar association is for dealing with the district court. Now, what are the functions? They must have had some function, whether it is going to organize programs or whether it is formed for the purpose of having the grievances raised with the judiciary at this district level or some other things. And what are the duties? So this must be transparently available on the website because it talks about computerization and digitalization. You must know exactly the purpose of any organization. Then it comes to para 2, Roman para 2, the powers and duties of its officers and employees. Now, what are the powers of the secretary? What are the powers of the treasurer? Now, we see many a times there is conflict between two office bearers, and to be honest, I also do not know what are the powers of the particular officers, what are the rules providing it, or whatever powers has been given to a particular person by way of a resolution. All that I have a right to know, but unfortunately it is not available. Then third comes the procedure followed for decision-making process, including channels of supervision and accountability. I will give you a small example. Recently, during the COVID-19, it was decided by several bar councils to help the needy lawyers. Now, what was the basis on which the decision was taken? Some bar associations or councils have taken that we will transfer funds. Some have stated, no, we will distribute grains. Some said, no, we will distribute something else. So what was the procedure followed? Was it a meeting? If a meeting was there, what data was collected? On what basis they decided that X is entitled and Y is not entitled? So that there must have been a norm. There must be rules, regulation, etc. So whatever is the procedure they are going to follow, representation, etc., that has to be done, and how they are accountable for the same. Now, apart from that, there is norm set for discharge of the functions. So if there is a secretary, what are the norms set for him? What are the criteria set for him? And how he is going to discharge it? Then comes the rules, regulation, instructions, manuals, records held by it. Now, in the procedure of decisions, we can have, suppose there is a procedure of decision, whether it will be by the chairman telling the team that you have to do this, or whether there has to be a meeting, MC meeting. And when it comes to rules, regulations, we have the rules, say Bombay High Court rules. There are civil manuals, there are criminal manuals. In fact, it talks about instructions also in Roman 5. So what is the instruction given by the High Court? High Court may say that, okay, there is an instruction issued that please dispose of all the matters prior to 2015 in this year itself. So all this, we hear it in the code by the department, but we are not able to know what are the instructions given by the High Court. These all instructions must be available online, and to be very honest, not a single court has done so. There may be instructions by Bar Council of India to Bar Councils of the states, or Bar Council of the states to various state bar associations. Now all this we have a right to know, we have a right to be informed, and it doesn't talk about merely the members of the association. It talks about informed citizenry, which means even a layman should know whether the High Court has passed any rules, regulation, or instructions stating certain things that this has to be done in a particular manner. Then it talks about the statement of categories of documents that are held or are under its control. Now, many a times when we go, we find that the staff says we do not have this document, or this particular thing is not available with us. So what are the categories? On what basis you have categorized it? Whether you have categorized it as instructions from the High Court, say we are in a magistrate court, instructions from the High Court, or the instructions from the district judge, or the instructions, categories have to be there, different categories, central government instructions, state government instructions, all those have to be categorized and given. Now, very often we find that we as a layman or as a lawyer feel that something is wrong. I hear from lawyers, sir, this should have happened. If this is done, then things will be better. Generally, what they do is they call the bar leaders, and whatever the bar leader decides, that we are not even informed what the bar leader has stated and what was the decision. So this provision basically states that there has to be details of particulars of arrangement that exist for consultation as well as representation by members of public for formation of policies. I will give you a very hypothetical example. Suppose there is a policy which is decided that henceforth the courts will take interim application in the morning and bail matters at 4 o'clock, and it is decided civil cross examination will be taken at 3 o'clock. Now all this, whether there is any provision that exists for consultation or representation by members of public, if there, then what is it? And then what are the policies they are going to implement and how they are going to implement it? All these must be given transparently. Now, the next Roman paragraph 8 provides for boards, councils, committees, and other bodies of 2 or more persons, and whether the meetings of the board meetings are accessible to public. The judiciary has a system wherein the High Court judge, Supreme Court judges are going to meet among themselves. There is a system where they represent particular judges to meet the High Court judges or the Chief Justices of all India, all High Courts. There may be a system wherein the Chief Justice of the state meets, the High Court meets all his judges, or particular judge is assigned that you go and have a meeting with so-and-so, and then they formulate a committee. There are several committees. For example, in High Court, we have the CMIS committee. There may be a committee for handling their staff. There may be committee for budgets. There may be committee for the purpose of deciding the cause list. Now, you see the cause list is decided. Apart from that, there is assignment. So there must be a committee. So what is the committee? Who is there in the committee? The minutes of the same. What was decided? How it was decided? Who objected? There may be a decision which was decision made by 3-2. So who opposed it? All this technically under section 4, 1B must be online. Now the directory of its officers and employees. Today in this world, we face the biggest challenge is contacting the right person. If you go to court, there is a rule that every staff must wear a badge. These are very basic things which we ignore, but which are very important. So the badge has to be worn and he has to write his designation. Now, when the junior goes inside the court first time, second time, or fifth time, or 10th time, he's afraid. And in fact, at times, those who do not have very flourishing practice, they take up matters where they are not going regularly and they go for the first time. They do not know who is the judicial clerk. They do not know who is the peon. They do not know whom to contact. Invariably, they will catch somebody and ask, sir, what to do about this? And that person may guide you to third party or fourth party. You do not know whether you are guided to the right person. You do not have the name. Suppose the person says that, sir, you have to fill in this form. You file the form, you give it to him. After 15 days, you realize we have had experience where we filed the complaints, criminal complaints. We do not have the acknowledgement or any details. And later on, we realize that it is misplaced. They say, oh, sir, this is not misplaced. You did not file it. They will not claim that it is misplaced. They will say, sir, this is not there. You have to keep searching the register. Now comes the upper paragraph. The rules, regulation, instruction, and manuals and records. So if the register is there for filing, after you file, they maintain the register, they record it in the register. If they tell you that every time when you go to the court, you can check the register to find out whether your case is put up here or not, recorded here or not. Maybe he may throw it out. I may be the judicial clerk. I take the papers, you affirm it, I take it and I throw it outside the window. I have a conflict with you. You did not pay me $100. In Marathi, we say kahi diya. That means kaida is Hindi word saying that law. Kahi diya means give something. So in India, we have replaced kahi diya, kaida with kahi diya. So everywhere where you go, you find that there is a conflict because unless you pay, these things don't work. And very unfortunately, the judiciary does not have the guts to say that, okay, you can record it and put it before us. They say, no, you file affidavit, we will inquire. And what inquiry? Two other officers will be asked and they will say that there was no offense done. There was no money demanded. So basically, the concept of having the directory of officers and employees is to know beforehand when you go that so and so is the officer, then go above and you see that there is a procedure for accountability which is also provided, for control it is provided. So all those things, when you see accountability channel in Roman 3, this has to be read there. So the directory has to be there. You should know who is the affirming officer, who is the judicial clerk, who is the PA of the judge. Everything should be online. Now, next we come to Roman 10, the monthly remuneration received by each of its officers and employees, including the system of compensation as provided in the regulation. I am sure no lawyer knows what are the perquisites and benefits a court staff gets. We do not know how much salary did he draw and how much attendance did he have. We do not know that if 5 officers manipulate and say, okay, tomorrow we decide that 5 people will be, they will be on leave one by one, come in, put in the thumb and go out. So what, if we did not see it, we have a right to question. So what was the remuneration received? Whether he was entitled to leave travel allowance, whether he has encashed that leave travel allowance, and if encashed, to what extent, how much did he have the HR housing rent released, whether a judge got a flat or a house or a bungalow, how much was spent on its renovation. If there are district judges, whether the car, there is a car which is common car or pool car, how many kilometers they were permitted, how many kilometers did they travel. So all these stuff technically comes under Roman 10, where we have a right to know the facts. This applies to everyone, including the Prime Minister and the President of India. Now, the budget allotted to each of its agency, indicating the particulars of plans, proposed expenditure, and reports of disbursements made. We all know that there is, the court runs on expenses. So, what was the budget of salary? What was the IT budget? I'll give you a very small example. Suppose there is an IT budget of say 500 crores allotted by say state government for upgradation and technology upgradation. You may also find that these 500 crores have landed up being spent on the laptops, hi-fi laptops of judicial officers. So basically the printer, if you go to the court, they will say, we don't have the printer, sir. We are short of staff, we are short of computers. But the laptop which is purchased may be i7. The laptop may have the latest software. The judiciary will tell us, no, we cannot work. We cannot work on Windows. We cannot work on Google. We have that Linux system, freeware system. But the laptop will have everything. And those laptops, if you know that if the laptops are allotted, are they used for offices or court purposes? Most of the time, do you find it on the bench? The answer is no. Technically, the purpose of the laptop is that the judge can do research. He can see the scanned images. He can see the judgment. We need not give him the judgment copies also. In fact, there are softwares which are given to them for judgments. So all this, how the budget was made, what was the budget, how much was allotted for which agency, for computerization, for judges' laptops, how much is allotted for cars of the judges, how much is allotted for the cabin renovation, all this we have a right to know, and then we have a right to know how it was released. Judges' cabin may have 50 lakh rupees to be released. Furniture is not made and some bill is there. So we have a right to, the concept of democracy is that we all citizens are the auditors of the accounts of the government. So all this is not there. Then the manner of execution of subsidy programs, including amount allotted and the details of beneficiary of such programs. Now, suppose now today we find that the government has come up with various schemes. They say we are going to release 500 to certain category, 5,000 to certain category, 6,000 rupees to farmers, etc. Now, technically, if you ask me, this law is very clear that the manner of execution of subsidiary program, how have you planned, whether it is direct transfer, or are you going to give them books, or whether you are going to give them ration, or are you going to give them discounts, all this along with the list of details of beneficiaries. So legislature was wise enough to have the details of beneficiary, not just the name. So suppose there is a beneficiary, a farmer by name Raman Lal. He is getting 6,000 rupees a month. The details must be online, or there is a loan waiver. The farmers' loan were waived. There are many schemes the government comes up. So who has got it? What is his address? What are his other details? I understand there is an issue of privacy, but privacy will restrict to PAN card and Aadhaar card. So all these details have to be put online. The idea behind it, what I consider must have been, is in democracy, suppose Raman Lal has expired 5 years back. Now this 5 years after, somebody is collecting money, whether it is a local politician, whether it is his son, or somebody else is collecting money. So, and I come to know that, look here, Raman Lal was my neighbor, and I check up and I say, sir, Raman Lal has expired 5 years ago. How are you giving this money to the beneficiary? The details of the beneficiary given are faulty. It can also happen that there may be some incentive, there may be Siddharth Murarka given my address and some incentives must have been given, and there may be a parallel account. Who knows? In today's world, everything is possible. We saw many mobile corrections. In fact, years ago, I had a problem that I realized my prepaid mobile number was in name of somebody else, and somebody else got the find the mobile numbers in my name. I had to file a police complaint. So the idea is to have and ensure transparency. The first word in preamble is transparency. So if the government claims, for example, I am the government, I claim I am going to feed 9 lakh people every day during COVID-19. So I have to maintain the record. I understand if it is 30 rupees, 40 rupees food, I cannot have the list of people, but at least I can have the list of the places where I have put up the food. How much was the budget? Who was the in charge? How the food was to be distributed? So that's the policy. And how many people got the benefit, numbers, and how much was spent. So I can compare that, okay, I have spent at Delhi, 9 lakh people was feeded and the cost was 200 per head. Mumbai, it was 300. So transparency, transparency doesn't merely mean that you are going to feel that there is corruption. It is possible that there may be mismanagement, or there may be miscalculations, or there may be costs, which is, purchases are of a higher rate. So all this analysis, the government cannot do. It is expected that we as a citizenry, we have a lot of time. We have time to make comments on Facebook. So all this energy should have been diverted over here, where we see, suppose I am staying at Goregaon, Mumbai, I see Control F, Goregaon, Mumbai, how many other beneficiaries. I realize, I know Raman Lal, he is a rich man. Raman Lal has got this benefit, he's not even a farmer. So all this has to be online. Then comes the particulars of recipients of concession, permits, or authorization granted by it. Today, during COVID, I was just viewing the complex where I stay, and I realized that there are 5 cars on which there are some papers put up. These are permits. Now, how did they get the permits? 1 or 2, I know they are not related to medical field, they are not related to anything. I'm sure it is by other means or in the name of some relatives. So the permits, if it is granted, if I am granted a permit to, for example, use a loudspeaker in public premises, or I am granted a permit to have a garden renovated or maintain a garden, I have a permit to put up a hoarding on the road. Whether the road permit is valid or invalid, nobody knows. I may be an illegal hoarding must have been put up, and I may have bribed the officer that don't look here. or I may be an influential person, he is afraid of me. So all these permits which the government grants, whether it is by police, whether it is by judiciary, whether it is by government, whether it is by state, all this must be online. The transparency comes here. If somebody is granted permit, we heard about the DHFL case where the permit was granted to the Vadvas to travel from X place to Mahabaleshwar, and these permits were not online. So if the policy, if the RTI section 4 is implemented, I could have known, oh, this permit is there. It is only when somebody pointed out I came to know. Or it is possible that I may forge that copy and I create a similar copy and paste it on my car and I'll drive here from here to Delhi. And in Delhi, in between, nobody realizes this is a false one. But if it is online or there is a barcode and barcode machines are easily available, then the government officer or somebody can scan it and see, oh, look here, this is not the actual one. This is a forged one. Then it talks about details in respect of information available or held by or reduced in electronic form. So basically, this effectively means whatever is available in electronic form, you have to upload it. This means a government file noting has to be uploaded. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose there is a file which has come to a minister for some approvals of environment. Now that officer has stated that, sir, this is not a proper file, there is violation of section so and so, so and so, so and so. Now he is only going to study it, it is a minister who has to sanction. The minister says, no, grant the license. So all that must be uploaded. We should know that the officer was honest enough and there was a remark which was made stating that, look here, the compliance of law is not done and the minister has overruled it. So if this is uploaded, the minister will be afraid of signing any document. He will be afraid of overruling the law. So it's like, suppose I am sitting in a room which is having all the four-sided glasses. Top there is a glass and I am working. However dishonest I am, I will not try to have corruption at that place. I will wait for an opportunity because there are so many glasses, people may watch you. So this glass has prevented me from being corrupt. And take a reverse scenario where there is no glasses. It's a room where it is closed, the walls are there, the gate is closed, you enter into my premises and you come out and say, Mr. Murarka asked for 50,000 rupees. 100 people are told, 100 will communicate to 5,000, and you know, when it is communicated, it adds 50,000 becomes 5 lakhs and it becomes 5 crores. So some people will believe it. So the purpose of Section 4 was not only to prevent corruption, but to ensure that the honest officers are not trapped by gossips or baseless allegations. Now then comes the particulars of facilities available to citizens for obtaining information, including the working hours of a library or reading room, if maintained for public use. So there is possibility that, for example, Judges Library is there in Bombay High Court, which is only for judicial officers. It is not for public. So you need not give it. You just have to disclose that this is there. Now I have a right to know how many books were purchased, what was the cost of the books, what was the price given for each book. Because I may know a vendor who's giving 30% discount and I realize that the tenders were not invited and books worth 5 lakh rupees was purchased from X person, Y person instead of X. So then I can point out, I assume that there is no corruption there, but then I can record. Now it comes back to public representation, which is there earlier. I represent, there has to be a system. So you have to give online the method by which I can send my representation. I represent that, sir, you have purchased these books. I have seen it online. You have not got discount. X vendor is giving discount of 30%. So you see, you can't say that 1 is prior or 2 is prior and 10 is later. It's a combination which has to work. Then comes the name, designation, and particulars of public information officers. Show me a single bar association which uses public premises, which uses the electricity from public, and which has listed its public information officers. You know, if RTI is implemented, Section 4 is implemented, you will come to know that there may be a council or bar association which has been permitted to use air conditioners, and the electricity bill as well as air conditioner cost is paid by the government of India or the government of the state, and you may realize that there is a small bar association in a rural area or a district area which doesn't even have the basic infrastructure of a fan. Now this, whether we like or don't like, the biasness is there in the entire system. I may be biased, you may be biased, a judge may be biased, even the prime minister may be biased. So this biasness doesn't mean always corruption, but biasness can be curtailed if there is transparency. We can represent, suppose there is representation permitted by a lawyer sitting in Pune. If he sees that he comes to Mumbai, he sees that a particular bar association has air conditioners, and he sees online and he finds out that, oh, the air conditioner bill, that is the purchase of the asset, as well as the electricity bill is paid by the government, whereas we do not have fans. So he can claim that there is biasness towards the Bombay and there is biasness against Pune. Now there may be, I'm just giving an example. Pune may be better off than Sholapur. Sholapur may be better off than say Chandrapur or etc. I'm not on the point of pointing out something wrong. It's just an hypothetical example. The idea is when you have Section 4 implemented, there is total transparency and people know what is wrong in the system. You have a right to know. The fundamental right to life includes right to knowledge, the right to information. I can't say knowledge, but right to information definitely exists. I have a right to know where the money goes. I have a right to know that this 2,000 or 2 lakh crore or 20 lakh crore package which is announced, who are the beneficiaries? Who has claimed the benefit of getting loan without any security? Why? Because it is possible that I, Siddharth Murga, sitting here, may nominate a person. I may say, Mr. X, you are my peon. I put you as an MSME entrepreneur. You take all the benefits. Now you are going to sell it, all your goods, at a discounted rate to my own company, which is Y Limited. And ultimately, I am the beneficiary. And when it comes to repayment, the peon says, sir, I don't have any money because I am not a personal guarantor. Even if I am a guarantor at the most, if I don't have anything, I did business, there is a loss. You can't hang me or put me behind the bar. At the most, you'll say that declare me insolvent. What difference it makes to a peon? In fact, I have come across big corporate houses who had their drivers and their cooks becoming director of the company, only with a view to siphon off. So this basically Section 4, to some extent, I cannot say 100%, puts a nail on it. When we come to permissions, for example, somebody is permitted to run a partnership firm. Who are the partners? Now today we have MCA website, but MOF doesn't have all those details. So Pan India, we should have all the details. Suppose there is land which is allotted. Now land which is allotted, suppose there is a scheme of discount to females. There is discount for females in registration at say Gujarat. Now suppose X lady has taken a good discount, so I should know that okay, this was the scheme, this was the incentive, and X lady who's having registered at this place purchased this property and got discount. So the idea behind this is every penny is accounted for. Now we come to Roman C. 41C. Publish all relevant facts while formulating important policies or announcing decisions which affect public. Now recently, I am not saying that there is corruption, but recently if you see, all states across India and even the center had made several important policies. They have announced decisions which affect the public. Emergency is excluded here. There are certain more provisions which I am not going to deal with. But there may be a policy which is long term. For example, you decide to change the labor law. Or you decide that MSME will be given some benefits. Or in alternative, you decide that farmers are going to get 6,000 rupees a month. Or you decide to have a farm loan waiver. All states have done it. And that's the biggest agenda. So how did you decide it? What was the basis of formulating the policies? Or the judiciary announces some policies. What was the basis? you see judiciary coming in with notifications at random saying that, oh, if there is a person who's going to argue in person, he has to take permission from the High Court. That's a policy which affects the public. So what was the relevant facts? Or is it some officer sitting in the office where I don't want these common people harassing me. So I have to answer them, and the people come here, they raise so many relevant points. The lawyers, they are officers of the court, so they are afraid and they are bound by law. So they have a fear factor of losing their sonnets or losing their face value. So they will not raise voice, or they will not raise vital issues against the judiciary. So all this decision was taken. So what was the basis? I'm not saying it is wrong or right. I am only saying that there is a possibility. Now, D comes provide reason for administrative or judicial, quasi-judicial decisions. What is quasi-judicial decision? Suppose IRDA comes, you file a complaint with IRDA saying that so and so insurance company is doing something wrong. And then it sits over it, or SEBI sits over it, or BSE sits over it, and it decides, look here, this complaint is sham and bogus. So, whatever is the administrative decision, quasi-administrative decision, that has to be backed by a reason. If there is an administrative decision to transfer judges from Sholapur to Kolhapur, or from Rohini Court to Tisajari Court, or from West Bengal to Assam, so these are administrative decisions, so you have to provide reason. The idea is that everything becomes transparent. There is a thought process involved. You can't say that there is a call which is received. I make a call to a minister. I say, look here, the superintendent of police from Rohtak must be transferred now to, say, a rural area. Or I say transfer him to Gautam Budh Nagar. And the minister signs an order. So there has to be a reason. There has to be relevant facts. All those facts, you have to give a reason why you are transferring. You can't abruptly say, no, I am transferring a police PI from X police station to Y police station. Either you have a policy of 2 years, so as per the policy number so and so, that policy should also be online. I have a right to view it. And as per this policy, I am doing this. If you see section 4 in entirety, and if you go to any government officer, any authority, I can challenge and say all are in violation of the law. You do not know which contract on the administrative side is given to whom and on what basis. You do not have the details of the tenders. You do not have the road manual in front of you which says that when a road construction contract is given, it has a warranty of 2 years, and a person does not know if there is a small hole or there is a big hole or the road is uneven, where to file a complaint. The road construction may be bad, he may have left the corners. Where do I file a complaint? If there is warranty, till what date? What was the quality of the product which was to be used? I may be a layman, but I can see, okay, it was a Dambar road, but you are putting it a block road. Or I see the warranties of 2 years and maybe there is a hole in it, or there is a mismatch or unbalance, and I write a letter on 11 after the period of 1 year, 11 days, 29 days, and I point out that this is the mistake. So 1 day is left. So he has to rectify it. Otherwise, what happens is, even if it is noticed, the officer, the contractor may give bribe and he may get out. Or there is a period of escalation. After 30th of May, if you do not complete, you have to pay penalty 25,000 rupees. So what he does is he goes to the officer and gives some bribe, and you realize that the dates are changed. The permission is granted for a building. It has got IOD, IOC, etc. So what is the validity? What permissions? We have referred to permissions. So technically, every building permission has to be online. I have a right to see the map. I have a right to see what are the sanctions. I have a right to see whether he is to leave 5 feet road or 6 feet road in front. So all this public scrutiny. So democracy is, we talk about democracy, we say rule of public, by public, for public. But technically, is it happening? It is not happening. Now I come to a few judgments. I will not be taking up all the judgments, but at least a few. So the first judgment which I am citing right now is a judgment which we had argued. It was Vikas Narayan versus CPIO IRDA. Now, facts of the case is this, that the grievances was raised against Tata Motor Insurance Brokerage, stating that its officer is not, Tarun Samant is not qualified, and when my clients filed a complaint, he was removed after inquiry. But there was a defamation case against me. So naturally, my client, they are naturally, the client requires documents to prove that whatever statement he made with regard to the said officer was correct. So he filed an RTI. It was denied on the ground of Section 8, that is privacy. Now, when we went to the CIC, we pointed out to the CIC that, look here, this is of public importance. Public is affected because an unqualified person was holding post, and our grievances was that whenever an officer has to qualify, whether it is SEBI, BSc, MSc, or whether it is insurance broking or a vital post, there are qualifications prescribed. Now, these qualifications, when a person complies with the qualification, he may be an IAS officer, so the details must be put up. I can verify the details and say, look here, you said that he cleared from Aligarh Muslim University, but I have verified and it is not there. So here was a fact where IRDA had denied the information, and then we went up to the commission, and then we filed a written submission, and in the commission we stated that Section 4(1)(b) Roman 7 of the RTI, IRD was bound to disclose the representation of public grievances and implement appropriate action if grievances were found to be true and correct. However, there is no such mechanism to know the action taken on complaint and findings, and even the complainant had no right to know the same. As per Section 4(1)(b) Roman 14, the IRDA was bound to disclose the information available or held in electronic form. So you see, all these combinations were taken. The complaints, investigations, and findings were all in electronic forms, hence must be suo motu disclosed on public domain. Furthermore, as per Section 4(1)(c), the IRDA was bound to publish all relevant facts by formulation of policies and announcing decisions which affect public. It was also stated that the IRDA was bound by Section 4(1)(d), which says that every public authority shall provide the reason for administrative and quasi-judicial decisions to the affected public persons. The complainant appellant was also an affected person, and that there was no law that if a person is found guilty of misconduct, his file should be kept secret. In case it was found that any person played foul or gave false information, documents, or other records against the IRDA rules and regulations, then Section 8(1)(j) will not be applicable, and rather it is in larger interest which justifies the disclosure of the information, as it is deterrent value for the insurance brokers. Now, IRDA, CIC then looked into the Act, and it says the IRDA mission of IRDA statement is to protect the interest and secure the fair treatment of policyholders, and then it listed out to bring speedy and orderly growth of the insurance industry, promote transparency, integrity, etc., etc. And then it went on to rely upon several judgments. The key judgments which I will be relying upon here was the Supreme Court judgment in Ashok Kumar Pandey versus State of Bengal, wherein the detail of public interest was defined, and a matter of public or general interest does not mean that which is interesting as gratifying curiosity or a love of information or amusement, but that which is a class of community have a pecuniary interest or some interest by which their legal rights or liabilities are affected. Further, the Supreme Court judgment, which is the CBSE judgment, Aditya Bankopadhyay versus others. So this, the para 37, it's a very lengthy judgment. The Supreme Court held that the right to information is cherished right. Information and right of information are intended to be formidably tools in the hands of responsible citizens to fight corruption and to bring transparency and accountability. The provisions of RTA Act should be enforced strictly, and all efforts should be made to bring into the light necessary information under Clause B of Section 4(1) of the Act, which relates to securing transparency and accountability in working of public authorities in discouraging corruption. So whatever I have stated is recorded over here. Section 4(1)(b) has to be complied with. Then came the Delhi High Court judgment, which was wherein the Delhi High Court in the judgment, which is the DDA versus Central Information Commission, stated that in para 16, it also provides that the information should be easily accessible and to the extent possible should be in electronic form with the Central Public Information Officer or the State Public Information, as the case may be. The word disseminate has also been defined in explanation to the meaning making the information known or communicating the information to the public through notice boards, newspapers, public announcements, media broadcasts, the internet, etc. It is therefore clear from a plain reading of Section 4 of the RTI that the information which a public information authority is obliged, the word is obliged, to publish under the said section should be made available to the public and specifically through internet. There is no denying that the petitioner is duly bound by virtue of the provisions of Section 4 of the RTI to publish the information indicated in Section 4(1)(b) and 4(1)(c) on its website so that the public have minimum resource to the use of RTI to obtain information. Now here it says the word used here is internet, and then it says is bound, duly bound. So if you go to any municipal website, are all the details uploaded? Whether every bar council or bar association has uploaded, whether the IRD has uploaded or whether SEBI has uploaded. If there was a complaint against ex-broker, whether SEBI made inquiry and did it upload it? So the answer is no. Whether the police commissioner's website shows all the permissions, all the complaints against his officers. I make a complaint against API, Mr. So and so. Whether if the complaint is found to be faulty, then you must also upload it. If it is found to be correct, then also you must upload it. Because in faulty, it means that I have targeted the police officer. And there is deterrent value that if X has filed several complaints against several officers, public at large should know that he is a man who is filing false complaints. It is applicable to judiciary also. Now we know recently there was punishment of 2 of the lawyers by Supreme Court for contempt of court for making malicious statements. We know there are many lawyers who do not get orders and immediately they file complaints. And there are several lawyers who file genuine complaints and raise genuine issues. What happens is, whether it is a police, judiciary, or whether it is a government officer, these inquiry files are secret. It is possible that the inquiry report, I remember there was a case of cash at door in the Allahabad High Court, and it resulted in Justice Vaghela making inquiries. And in that inquiry, there were several judges who were involved. Now those details are not on public domain. Why? Do we not have a right to know that the judge against whom the complaint was made was innocent, and it was realized that other judges were guilty? If there is an inquiry which points out that Supreme Court judge or even the Prime Minister or President is guilty, it should be uploaded, and if it is decided on merits by any authority that the report was not proper, then upload that also. Now let us see the next judgment of Delhi High Court, where in para 8, the High Court stated that the RTI Act, as per its preamble, was enacted to enable the citizens to secure access to information under the control of public authorities in order to promote transparency and accountability in working of every public authority. As informed citizenry and transparency of the information have been spelled out as a vital to democracy and to contain corruption and to hold governments and their instrumentalities accountable to be governed. The said legislation is undoubtedly one of the most significant enactments of independent India and a landmark in government. The spirit of the legislation is further evident from various provisions thereof, which require public authorities to A. Now comes section 4(1)(b). The government, the 4(1)(b), if you see 4(1)(b) and 4(2) also has been given for suo motu as far as possible he has to disclose. So this is a landmark legislation. This covers almost entirely everyone. You may not be able to cover private banks, but if there is a qualification prescribed to become the chairman of a private bank, then that has to be on public domain, because RBI has granted him to hold the post because of this. If there is a RBI license which is provided for a bank license, that has to be on public domain. RBI website should show us which are the banks. Today nobody knows how many cooperative banks. We only hear it when the bank collapses. We do not know the accounts of any bar association. We do not know the accounts of bar councils. We do not know their meetings. We do not know what was discussed. We do not know who attended. Now there may be a person who comes and says, I was there in every meeting, and whatever decisions is there, I was pushing it. And when you see the minutes, he is not there. If there is a prescribed norm for a secretary of the society, yes, publish it. Publish every vital information, whether it is the granting of permission of partnership firm, to ROC records, to income tax records. I understand there is an issue of privacy, but that privacy, if in section 8, if you see, it says in larger interest. If in larger interest, privacy has to be diluted, there is no harm. Nationalism will always prevail over privacy. So those who are shouting privacy, privacy, must compare it with nationalism and public welfare. So if the data is with the government, they can do it. If the data is with public, they can do it. If I have the data online, I may be able to judge a person. For example, my MLA, how many times did he attend the parliament? How many discussions did he participate? Here are the MLA funds. How did he spend it? MLA fund is most secret. It is given for welfare of the constituency. Now, suppose there is a corporator. How many committees was he in? I know many MLAs, MPs, who on account of holding a particular office gets into the corporate bodies as directors, or gets into several institutions. It may be WAF board, it may be Child Right Commission, or any other institution, or organizations, committees, advisories. So if section 4(1) is complied with, I will know what was he doing. I am paying him the salary. Cooperator gets a salary. The MLA gets a salary. Now if the MLA has taken 10 flights, another MLA has taken 2 flights. If MP has used 10,000 rupees on his mobile, another MP has used 2,000 rupees on the mobile. If a judge has traveled 50,000 kilometers in 5 years, another judge 5,000 kilometers. If a judge has used certain amounts, say 50 lakh rupees on house furnishings, he's entitled to. So budget permission was 1 lakh, he used it, 1 crore, he used it 50 lakhs, and somebody did not use and he used 2 lakh rupees. So all this, I have a right to know. So basically, RTI Act means that I need not seek information. You have to give me information. And that is the purpose and soul of the Act. What they have made it that I seek information and they will give me the information. No, you have to give me information, suo motu. And then if something is missing, I will point out this information is not there. So the concept of filing RTI applications is secondary, suo motu is primary. Now there are questions which I'll also answer. Does RTI apply to registered society to provide valid information, and under what section? Now if you see, I had cited the CIC judgment wherein it was someone versus CIC, the IRDA. So if any information is held, if you see information held by him, so whatever the registrar or deputy registrar information is available with him, that he has to give. I'll come back to the Act, section 4, which says, clearly says, it talks about the catalogs. If you see Roman 6, a statement of categories of documents that are held by it or under its control. So what is deputy registrar holding? He has to give the categories. So he holds society records, all those categories has to be given. and then he has to give anything which is in electronic form, which is also put up in Roman the permissions, etc. is Roman 14. The details in respect of information available to or held by it reduced in an electronic form. But mind you, there is exception under section 8, which exception is in relation to certain privacy issues. Suppose income tax record is there, you want my income tax records, that is not allowed. Now the next question which I will see is, I'll just go to the questions. So Neeraj, can you assist me on the questions? I am not able to see it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
There is no question. Just Madhuri has said, please share the citation.
Okay, citations I will be uploading. I will also come to the judgment which we have argued, which was the Forum for Fairness in Education versus the Union of India and states. Now here what was the issue was that my contention was that the state commission, so there is a child right commission which tomorrow we have the subject. The commission did not give the disclosures as required under section 4(1)(b), as the High Court in para 4 clearly stated that in view of the said definition, I am just sharing the screen, everybody is able to see that the court said that in view of the said definition, both state and national commission are public authorities.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. The screen is not coming, sir, properly.
Okay, I'll just share again. Share screen. Now, can you see it? Can you
Yes,
see
sir.
it?
Yes, sir.
So, if you see para 14, we have perused section 4 of the said Act of 2005. Public authority has been defined under clause 8 of section 2 of the said Act of 2005. In view of the said definition, both state and national commission are public authorities within the meaning of the said Act of 2005. The obligation of all public authorities has been set out in section 4 and in particularly subsection 1 thereof the said Act of 2005. The State Commission will have to look into the deficiencies pointed out by the petitioner in the brief note marked as X2, and in fact, even the National Commission will have to also substantially comply with the requirements of subsection 1(4) of the Act. So this is the citation, all the citations what we will be doing. Devendra will be, once we upload the video, we will on the bottom even give the link to the barracks and this matter of Tata's in CIC as well as the Forum for Fairness in Education. Any other question?
No, sir.
Thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. It's almost 1 hour. I hope this is beneficial, and I hope everyone learns to record a letter pointing out what is missing in section 4 of the RTI Act. If we all start doing it, maybe 10 lakh people spare 2 hours a week, then trust me, everything will change. These departments will comply with it. You have to record letters to bar associations. You don't find anything up online. They have to give their balance sheet, minutes, etc. How they got the premises, to their expenses, how much they have collected, what permissions they have, whether they have permissions to give parking, allotment of parking, etc. How they have allotted parking, the lockers, etc., etc. Whether it is bar council, whether it is municipal corporations, or whether it is the state government, whether it is SEBI. So if we bring in section 4 of the RTI, then naturally things will change. There is a question, Advocate Sanjay Shah, request to share your PPT. Please, if you have no objection, where I have not prepared any PPT, sir. I have only shared the judgments and the barracks, which I have already stated that it will be there, the links will be shared. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you so much for everyone for participating.
Thank you.